Hello, everyone. This is Brent. This is just a snapshot of the content that we'll be covering in today's presentation. So let's just start talking about what are some of the things you really need to know if you want to have a 24/7 availability within the required SLAs for your storage infrastructure. The first question that would really help you is if you would know how any single components are stressed during your daily peak periods. And this is actually kind of a deceptive issue because if response times are fine, most people don't worry at all about their storage infrastructure. But the question is, if you want to avoid performance issues, you really need to know during the peak periods are any components stressed, because the knee of the curve, once they hit a certain point of utilization, is pretty sharp, and delays will be introduced. And that's kind of the trick for understanding what problems are going to come up in your near-term future is to understand the stress points of those components. Another question would be, how's the risk profile of the infrastructure been changing from day to day? How's the stress or the risk quantification been growing? So being able to answer these two questions is pretty rare. I'd give yourself 10 points for each of these 9 issues that we're going through here. See what your score is at the end of the time frame. But these are what you really need to know in order to be able to predict those types of predictable problems. There are a certain number of issues that come up that are not really predictable if it's a hardware failure or somebody changes an application. But whether it's predictable or not predictable, what you really need to know is the root cause of those upcoming or those currently existing delays in the infrastructure, to be able to find out really what is being effective, when it's being effective, and what's causing it. So which LUNs or servers are or will be affected by the constraints that we're showing. Have the I/O workloads changed from previous periods, so you can very quickly understand, is it really due to the workload change as opposed to something within the infrastructure? Have there been hardware configuration changes, or has the microcode or firmware on the storage arrays been updated, and is that the source of the change in the performance profile in the environment? Or are there imbalance of workloads across the physical resources that are available, and is that really the source of the delays that are being introduced or will shortly be introduced into the service times? If it's not imbalanced and there's plenty of resources to handle the workloads, is new hardware needed, and what's the most cost-effective way to address the requirement? You need to buy new storage arrays, or perhaps adding adapters on the front end of the array, if that's where the constraint is, might be the more cost-effective way, for example. And has there been any failure of redundant components or links, which would increase the risk? So meaning response time is just fine still, but if there's a failure of a redundant component, that increases the risk of a performance issue in your future as well. So then there's a bonus question as well. All of these answers, if you know them on a day-to-day basis, if you can automate these, even across large, complex environments, so they're very easy to know the answers to these every day, that would be an extra 10 points. So this is kind of a self-evaluation of where you're at. Do you know the answers to these for your particular storage infrastructure? This is the kind of thing that we call availability intelligence. It's intelligence about how your infrastructure is handling your particular workloads on a day-to-day basis. It comes from this automation of the performance and configuration data using some built-in knowledge in the solution. So the result is really this idea of protecting availability as opposed to just recovering availability after an incident happens. So IntelliMagic Vision is what we use, the solution that we offer to do this kind of capability. Here is a list of supported platforms. We do not offer a solution for every environment out there. If your enterprise storage environment includes this kind of hardware, then it's probably worth your time to listen. We do add platforms from time to time, but we tend to take a pretty deep approach to any new platform that we add, really understanding and building in the knowledge into the solution of what the capabilities are based on the architecture and the specific configurations that are available, the size and speed of drives and spinning disk versus flash disks and cache and bus and CPU and front-end options and so on and so forth. So all of that is built in, so we don't just pull metrics and throw them up on the screen. We really work hard to build that knowledge in. So we don't support everything, but we feel we have a good solution if your environment includes these types of hardware environments.
This is just a brief overview of what we will be discussing in the actual video. If you would like more detailed explanations, as well as more content, please follow the link in the annotation.